so that the direction of the picture is in the script. Everything is in the script.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another roundtable of the Script Awards Los Angeles. My name is Chloe Malizé, and I'm so excited to be hosting and moderating another one of these roundtables. I've done a couple of them over the years. Script Awards Los Angeles, since 2016, has awarded 230 winners, and they've selected an additional 644 authors. Of those, I've gotten a chance to speak to a couple of them in these roundtables, and it's always really fascinating to hear the different writing styles, the different inspirations, the different challenges, how they surmount those. So today we're going to be speaking with three writers. They are the latest winners from the latest Script Awards Los Angeles. So without further ado, I'm going to bring them right up on stage. Hello, guys. Welcome. How are you?
Hello.
Hey, good, Chloe.
Great.
Hello. I'm well.
So let's start going around. And if you can tell us your name, tell us the project that was most recently in this last Script Awards Los Angeles edition, what it is, because some of them are, short films. Is it a feature film? Is it a series? And where are you joining us from? So, Doug, we can start with you, and then we'll go around to Eric and then Kirk.
Oh, okay. So my name is Doug McGuire. I wrote a short screenplay called It's Open. And it's kind of hard to say what it was. I didn't know if it was a thriller or sort of like a mystery. But it ended up, I limited myself to 15 pages. So I didn't want to go over 15. I didn't want to do 14. I said I wanted to come right in at 15 pages. And
where are you
it's sort of it's a true story that happened here in Indio, California. So normally I spend a lot of time in Los Angeles, but Indio is in the desert near like Palm Springs and the desert of California.
Is that where you're tuning in from today?
Yes, it is.
Amazing. Thank you for joining us, Doug. And we'll go a little bit more in depth into It's Open. Until then, Eric, welcome. Talk to us.
Welcome. Hello. So my name is Eric Slaybaugh. I wrote Happenin' Hollies. It's a full-length feature film, and I won Best Storyboard in the Script Awards Los Angeles. It was pretty exciting. I'm only 28 years old, so I wasn't really expecting to win anything, but I entered into like 9 different submissions for these, and I got a congratulations, and my mom we were all celebrating in my house. We're like, woohoo! But it's a full-length like thriller based around Bloody Mary and bloody murder. I came up with a new way of telling the story of Bloody Mary. She basically became a puppeteer, a mannequin, and then another character came out of that called Bloody Murder Martine. So they have 2 different genders in there.
Interesting.
And then,
And where are you tuning in from today?
Spokane, Washington.
Spokane, Washington. Very cool. Thanks, Eric. Hey, Kirk.
Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Kirk Shannon Buds. I am the writer of White Ceiling. It is the winner of the television series Pilot category, and I am in Baltimore, Maryland.
Very cool. Thank you so much. All right. So we got 3 completely different scripts because we got a short script, a feature, and a series. So I guess my first question is, what comes first? Knowing that the format that you want to write it in, and I know like this will be different for all you guys most likely, or having an idea, and as you go developing it, you decide, actually this will be a good series, or this will be a good short film or a feature film. So Kirk, we can start with you. How do you decide I'm going to write a series versus write a feature film?
Okay, I guess I should back up a little bit. So I have an MFA in film and television production from Chapman University, which is in Southern California.
Yeah.
One of the top film schools.
Absolutely.
I graduated when it was probably in its first 5 years. So I learned filmmaking all digitally. I was a part of that first class all over the world. I mean, Chapman University had a whole digital program. So within the program, I obviously took screenplay writing. So that was my first venture into screenplay writing. I had never done any screenplay writing or really any real writing before then in undergraduate work or in school.
Is that a requirement, or you just wanted to take a script writing class?
So for to get your MFA, it is a requirement.
Right,
At least one class.
Okay.
And so I took it there. And back then, this was sort of, again, the advent of streaming and Netflix and all that stuff. So most people weren't really into indie filmmaking or Hollywood filmmaking. And I was definitely into the indie filmmaking. So I never really paid that much attention to the television part because it wasn't really a thing back then. And then when I left film school, I went to New York, where I'm from, and ended working in fashion and doing fashion productions rather than film production. And I spent 10 years doing that.
Wow.
And I thought I was going to move to Baltimore, set up my film production company. And I had already done, this is my feature film. I had done one feature film, Blueprint, that had done, really well on a film festival circuit. So I was like, oh, I need to get back to film. So I packed up, moved to Baltimore, thought I was going to buy this building and start a production company, met an artist, started working with this artist, and then spent the next 10 years doing art curating. And so
doing what? Art curating.
Art curating, working with artists, painters, sculptors, all that. And so during that journey, I learned that less than 2% of all curators working in America, in the United States of America, in museums and galleries and art institutions and cultural centers, less than 2 are African American. So I learned that I was a unicorn.
Basically.
And so that was the thing about White Ceiling. So White Ceiling is about this unlikely art curator's journey through the art world, this billion-dollar world that most people are not really familiar with outside of maybe Sotheby's or Christie's, and then the perspective of being one of the only Black people that are in there and navigating that whole world. So that's how it came to be.
And then how did you decide it was going to be a series and not a feature film or a short film?
Well, it started out, I thought it was going to be a film.
Okay.
And I think maybe someone read it and said, oh, this would really make a really great series. And then maybe 3 years ago, I took a In the Cut LA. Have you heard of In the Cut LA?
I have not.
So the other filmmakers out there and writers, there's this organization called In the Cut LA, and they do series classes. So I took a screenwriting class with them. And so basically I workshopped this film idea into a TV pilot idea with the teacher of the class, the instructor. And it was like an 8-week class, and over 8 weeks I wrote the pilot.
And you already had the feature film, the full feature film script that you then turned into.
I did.
Wow. Oh, that's very cool. So I love how I think similar to Doug, a lot of ideas come from, real life experiences, because I feel like the best thing, that we know and we can write about. So on that, Doug, thank you so much, Kirk, for sharing that. That's super cool. Doug, how did you decide? I mean, you seem very, I'm going to write 15 pages. So did you already go into this knowing I'm going to write a short film? It's going to be 15 pages. Why a short film? So tell us a little bit about that process for you.
So before I had written a short film that was 30 pages, and looking back on it, I just thought that it could have been like trimmed down. I could have cut a lot of fat and got it down to about 20 pages. And to be honest, there was a film festival, another one, that said that they only accept things that are 15 pages or less.
Wow.
So I said, okay, there's no way that I can tell this, in less than 15, but 15 would probably be just right. I mean, I wanted it to be about 20, but it just seemed kind of like a challenge. And what happened was, it was real life that someone died on my property. And, we rented out a casita, which is like a separate house that's attached to the house. And it was just bizarre because, it was an older woman and I hadn't heard from her in like a few days. And I started like smelling just like a strange odor coming from the ventilation system. And I don't mean to make this like podcast
No.
suddenly super dark. This is absolutely true. So this is what happened. And I didn't know what it was. I knocked on her door and I could have swore that somebody said to me, yes, like someone was talking to me. Because I thought, this older woman had died. She was in her 70s, approaching 80. And, I knocked on her door. She said yes. And I said, is everything okay? And she said, come in. So I tried the handle and I said, I can't. It's locked. And she goes, come in. So I tried again. And I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, yes. And so I was like, okay. So I just left it alone. Her sister ends up calling me like a few days later and says, can you check on my sister? I haven't heard from her in a few days. And when I did, I opened up the door. She was passed on. She was on the floor, like right when you open up the door. So, the fire department first came, the ambulances, the coroners, the police, it was like a big production. So I instantly thought like I need to kind of remember all these details because this is my story right here. Because I swore I heard her say, come in, and I was honestly smelling a dead body, but she was responding to me. So it was almost like I was thinking, is this a ghost story or something? And then on top of that, I had just hired a new gardener, landscaper to take care of the property. So I sort of incorporated that, like, this guy could be like the possible murderer of the person, and he was the one that was responding to me. And this is kind of how I was justifying it in my head instead of like I actually heard a ghost. So, to get it to 15 pages was because of another film festival that actually rejected the screenplay. It wasn't accepted or anything. So, but they were the reason why I got it to 15 pages. And other than that, I mean, before I came up with the idea, I like to come up with a title first. So that's kind of like my process. And I said a good title would be It's Open. And, like the doors open, or the beginning, the gardener calls the guy and then he presses a button and then he says into the intercom, it's open. The vents were open. So I said, that's why it's got to be called It's Open. So I go with like first the idea, then
you had the idea and then
What's
the
that?
title. You had the idea and then the title. And then,
the idea wasn't really fleshed out. It was just like sort of the idea of person dies on the property and then something happens, but I need a title for it. Once I get that title, then I just start going for it. And it's like my writing process is sort of like stream of consciousness. I just keep typing and typing and whittle it down from there. So yeah.
Amazing. Very cool. We'll go a little bit deeper into the whole writing process, but that is a fascinating story. Very different true stories, but true story nonetheless. Eric, so talk to us a little bit about your feature. Did you know you wanted to write a feature? Did you have the idea fleshed out? What was your process in bringing this script to life?
When I start writing, I always assume that I'm going to do like a feature. I want to get to at least 60 pages. This one ended up being 110 pages when I thought that it was perfect. And then I just decided to keep going because I did an internet search on how many pages is like the limit, and it said 160. And I said, well, since it's been like 10 years since I've been working, because I started doing stand-up comedy in high school. So it's been like 10 years since I started writing and everything. I said, well, I'm going to do 160 pages and then take one page away just to be like, yeah, you know what, I did it. So I did 159 pages. And it started out because I didn't know what the story was going to be about. I had no idea that it was going to be about bloody murder and Bloody Martine. But those two characters I came up with developed from the stories, because I did 7 different stories in like 7 different ways of 2 people. They were named Rick and Cassandra. And then after I finished telling those stories, I got to the 110 pages. And then I was like, well, it'd be better if I just told a story about everybody and they were all different. So I had 7 different stories to go off of, and I came up with to just change the names of the 7 characters, or the 14 characters, and make them all individuals. So then it became a fat-filling process on, well, now that I have all of these different new characters, I want to be able to tell them in a correct light too. So I came up with a calming meditation thing and a soothing meditation and all of this stuff. And then, yeah, basically that's what led to the new creation of, well, it'd be better with now an 8 story where I have bloody murder and Bloody Martine changing everything.
So is the feature has these 8 different stories intertwined within?
Yeah. It has. I did the help, heal, train, and fight method of writing, where each chapter. So I had 7 chapters, and then each chapter had the subplot with either it was healing, helping, training, or fighting in the storyline, and then those were all distributed out to 28 different chapters.
Wow, that's really cool. And then
storyboard is what I won, and
so that's what I was going to ask you about, because you won for the storyboard. Did you make the storyboard? Did you work with somebody?
I did. No, it was all me. Well, and I guess the Universal, because I did it at midnight to 2 a.m. was like my writing process. So I was kind of like inheriting everybody else's dreams while I was working. Like I kind of feel like this universal thing where, like, when other people are awake and doing things, I can't have a good thought. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So did you have the entire script written and then you sat down and made the storyboard, or did that go like?
It was kind of 2 in hand, one together. I think I had most of the idea written, and then it just, like, because I constantly kept changing to a different page on my final draft. So I created new documents to each time that I had a rough cut done, and then I just cut it, drag and drop it. And most of the time it was just, pretty easy to transfer over. But there was one night where I went crazy for like 5 hours and just did the cutting, dropping, see which one fits best. And I wanted to go with the alignment on that it made sense at the end of the chapter to transfer into the new chapter. And like it was a good stitching process.
Interesting.
So I would either go off the words or the storyline.
How long is it? Because the whole feature, like 159 pages, how long is the storyboard? Like how many?
I want it to be 2 hours, 18 minutes, and 42 seconds. That was something like when Doug said the 15 pages. I was like, yeah, I do that with the timing of it. Wow. I want it to be exactly 42 seconds, 18 minutes, and 2 hours.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And like you guys are very like methodical. Like you know what you want and you go for it.
Yeah.
Doug, Kirk, do you guys also use Final Draft when you're writing, or do you use another software?
I use Final Draft.
Final Draft?
Yeah. Final Draft was the one recommended to me by a professional writer in LA when I lived there.
Yeah, it seems to be the,
I still really like to do the first draft longhand written out.
Wow, cool.
I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
and then then for me it makes it seem like the one that I type in the first draft, the first time is sort of like an edit, and then I can work from there, as Doug said, fleshing out characters and scenes and places, and Eric too, like the visuals of it all, how
Yeah.
how it would look. So I think I want to say that with White Ceiling, I started with like an 80-page draft or something crazy.
Wow. And when you write it in longhand, do you write it in like the script format, like the way you would like into like, oh, interesting. Very cool. Like, do you use Final Draft? I was gonna say Final Cut. Do you use Final Draft as well? Oh, you're muted. Doug.
Thank you. I would love to write like longhand because I actually have nice handwriting, but I start paying attention to that too much, like the way that I'm writing, and like, oh, that E doesn't look like that E, and I'll start tracing over things. So I try to just go right to the full draft, and I keep it up here in my head for the most part. And then when I'm ready to write, I do a page, and I like that page just to look good. For some reason, like in Final Draft, you guys will know, a character will be speaking, and then if his dialogue wraps to page 3 from page 2, it'll say more or continued. I have to break it up. So each page I look at like a work of art, so I constantly like working on that one page, and then when I get to page 2, I start to tinker with that a little bit. But yeah, for me it comes pretty fast and furious when I'm working on Final Draft, because I type fast, and I just like it to look good. Each
That's
page needs to
interesting.
look good.
That's interesting, Doug, because for me it's the opposite. I feel like I write faster longhand, and then when I get to Final Draft, maybe because it's typing, I feel like it's more tedious for some reason. And I still write all the time, and my handwriting is not great. So when I go to Final Draft, I'm like, what is this? So it adds another level of the characters, because I might have written some great line, but that
you can't read it.
So now I can't even read it. So I have to like, what did I say? So now I'm getting into the character, which is wonderful for me. And then, but it's a whole thing. It really is.
I think that works for the best too. Because I do the iPhone notes whenever I have a good quick idea. Like I just get it and type it out on my phone, and then I go back and look back at it, and I'm like, oh, that's a great idea for a thought. But it'd be better to like actually look at a thing and type out a whole storyline or the perfect script for the characters that are saying it. So I think it works out better to just do Final Draft and then have the script be like that.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think also for me the script just seems so finite, and so I like the process to get to the finite. Like it's
like carving one of those block steel cement.
Yeah. Well, I could see that, Kirk, because like with Final Draft, you're right. It's like very like this is, whereas like when you're writing longhand, you have the freedom to like a little arrow. Wait, by the way, a little note here, which I know Final Draft has like the sticky notes and the things like that, but nothing. I feel like I wouldn't my hand would get so sore after, especially if you're writing like a feature film or a series. Like I would not get past like one page, and then I'm like, oh yeah, my hand hurts. But that's really interesting. You guys all have, kind of, I mean, they're all means to an end. And then Eric mentioned he likes to write, 12 midnight to 2 a.m. That's when his juices are flying. Do you guys have like a certain time, or is it just an idea comes, you sit down, it doesn't, what?
Well, when I was at working in fashion in New York, I would work I would wake up about 5 a.m. and from like 5 to 10, I would write, mainly 6 to 10. And then I had to be to work maybe to 9. I think I had to be to work at 10. So I would write every morning, almost every day. And then, and that was for this feature film right here, Blueprint. Every morning I would work on that. and then I would jump in the shower, jump on the train, be to work. And I lived in Harlem and I worked in Times Square, so it was like a 15-minute train ride. And I had it every day methodical. Yeah.
Wow, that's like really great discipline. Do you feel like you had to like push yourself to like, discipline yourself to do that? Or was it just like you have this idea and sometimes there's something you want to do and you can't sleep, so you just wake up at 5? Or
I think it was a mix of things. I felt like that I, at that time I had just graduated from film school, so I was all about being a filmmaker. And I felt like the fashion thing was really cool and interesting, but it wasn't what I wanted to do, but it was like a cool environment. And so it was like, okay, I can go to this cool place every day and hang out with these interesting people and be on film, fashion shoots and all that stuff. But it wasn't 100% fulfilling. So getting up at 5, 6 every morning was. So it made it really easy to do that, because I'm not an early person if I'm not filming a shoot, on the shoot or something. That's the last thing I want to do is wake up at 6 a.m. But it was really, it just became the process, and I really enjoyed it. And it was, as Eric was saying, it was so quiet. Like most people are not up at 6 to 9, right? In that capacity. So
is that still your process to this day? Like when you wrote your series?
That's so crazy. It's the opposite. Now I'm writing after work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when that post-graduation high wears off. You're like
That's hard.
So what about you, Doug? Do you have like a specific time that you like to sit down? You feel like you get the juices flowing, or just kind of whenever?
So on this one, I hadn't written anything. It's pretty terrible to even call myself a writer, but the last thing that I wrote was during COVID. And this one, so it was about three years or so. The neighbor had passed away, and then that's when I said, okay, I need to write something. So I just kind of wrote until I got tired, and I guess what would happen is I would write like 3 pages. So, and then I would print them out, see how they looked, see how they felt in my hand. And I wanted to hold it and just kind of like flip through it. And then I would write another couple, and then I would have 5 pages, then 10. So it all happened within, I would say, like maybe a little bit more than 24 hours. So less than 2 days, let's say, I had my 15 pages. And the neighbor passed away at the beginning of November, and I started entering this short screenplay at the end of November. So it just really happened like kind of quickly, from not writing anything for like 3 years to just like boom. I mean, it like jumped out of my fingers, out of my head. It was like right there. So and I was pretty excited like how it came out. Like after I wrote it and I had the PDF for it saved on my computer, I was like, okay, let's go to Film Freeway. And I, just started submitting. And, I didn't even think about doing a second draft. And since then I have done like about 5 different drafts. So I had to write to a bunch of the competitions and be like, hey, I accidentally uploaded the wrong draft. Can you consider my new one? Anyway, yeah, just like it jumped out at me. Like I said, I just like to print those pages up and hold them and kind of look at them and analyze them and see. And another, I don't know, like who's going to be watching this, but I just want to say like a tip that was kind of passed on to me is when I write action, like if it's like Joey jumps into his car and walks down the road. Things that I was doing before was I would say like Joey jumps out of his car and begins walking down the road. I had a professor at a film school say to me, take out all INGs, take out anything that ends in ED. You want your stuff to be action, and anything that's like a noise, you capitalize all noises. So that would just be like if I can offer advice to anybody, is that instead of saying walking down the road, you say Joey walks, or
Mm,
it's just like things need to be like punchy. And
yeah.
I've had great success with that. Like the last thing that I wrote was a screenplay called 88, and it was about some like um, another thing that happened to me. So I guess I like to write about personal experiences, but that one ended up getting official selections and winning things like 20 different competitions. This one right now, I think I'm out almost at like 30 official selections and wins and things like that. So
Wow.
I think I'm doing something right, but it's not
Yeah.
because it's my way. It's like it was something that was just passed on to me. So that would just be my advice, is just to make your stuff more actiony.
Mm.
If I explain that good, I guess.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think, I can wrap up my last question for Kirk and Eric, jumping off that. If you had, based on your experience, if you had one piece of advice that you would give, another writer, what would it be? Whoever.
Go ahead, Kurt.
I definitely agree with Doug about having your own process and leaning into your own process. I think, again, coming from an educational background, having a degree in film and television where you're taught to do it one way, and
Hmm.
and sort of now that there's so many platforms that when you could never even imagine back then growing up that television would be the way it is today. So you don't
Mm.
have to, your story doesn't have to follow any format. There was no even reality television growing up. So there's now such thing as unscripted television. That's all new. That never happened. Everything had a script, right? Even the animated series back in the day, the Flintstones had a script. So I would just ask everyone to lean into your own process. Definitely lean into your own life for your stories. That's where that's where anything original is coming from. If you look at television, pre Netflix, Apple TV, all those places, it was the same sort of format. Like the Flintstones is the honeymoon. The honeymoon is Will and Grace. The I Love
Mm.
Lucy, Will and Grace. It's the exact same show. It's the same characters. It's everything. So having new characters and particularly as a person who is not in those television spaces until very recently, maybe you really do have to be willing to format yourself, if you will, in what we call a script, and put that out there and get it. The most challenging part is to get it produced, particularly if you want it produced in a Hollywood way, in that way. But even with that, we now people. When I was in film school, I would tell people when I had this film and I was on the circuit and doing at film festival, they asked me to speak on panels. Back then, I was like, "Use your phone. Go make a film with your phone," and people thought I was absolutely crazy. And now we know even Hollywood people use their phone as part of their filmmaking process. So just do it. Just do it. It really is about, don't be afraid of the technology, whether it's the script writing, how you format it. Just do it.
I love that. Amazing.
Yeah,
Eric.
piggybacking on that, AI definitely has so much to do with everything nowadays. With all, because I think the producers are kind of following it easier to just go off of that, and but I would tell anybody, just write what you feel like writing, and then have something fun to do in between the writing process. Because like when I was doing the midnight to 2 a.m. thing, I was also building a garden out in my backyard.
Oh,
Where,
cool.
yeah. So I would get the creative juices flowing by doing that, watering the plants, doing all this stuff, and then coming back in and writing.
Mm.
I feel like that took all of the technology out of it for me, all of the algorithms that had to be, I don't know, for AI. I'm not an AI person. I just feel like writing better stuff than what I watch, and I watch a lot of TV. So, but
Yeah, that it helps to know, to watch, to read scripts. And I feel like the common theme, here has been, to pull from your own experiences and your own life stories, sometimes stepping away, like you said, to a garden, finding your flow. Amazing. So I'd love to open it up to you guys if you have any questions for each other. By all means.
I was gonna read this thing that dropped in the section real quick.
Yeah, because we have Kurt, one of the other writers that has actually been watching from backstage. I did see he just threw in a little chat. You can go ahead and.
I was going to ask Chloe.
Sorry.
I was going to ask Chloe if so. So I know you've been doing these sessions for a minute in the awards. Congratulations in the LA Script Awards. So with that, can you talk about people or alum who've gone on to actually have scripts produced? Do you have any numbers on that and that process? Because I feel like that's that's really the hardest thing to get it produced if you're not producing it yourself.
No, absolutely. Matt Beauvoir, so he is the director of the festival. He has like all of his data of the people that come in with the scripts that then, go on to have them produced. He brings me on to talk with the script writer. So I wouldn't be able to tell you, the follow-up with writers and stuff. I know he has like other festivals. He has the Paris Art and Movie Awards as well. And, he has a script category there. And I have seen return filmmakers, which is really exciting, seeing filmmakers that were initially in the festival that I met because they had a script. And then they went on, to go in the festival again, but now with the feature. Most recently, I think it was in he also created the Yucca Valley Film Festival. And I met this writer who created a short film. And I think he entered it for the short film or the trailer. I can't really remember, but I followed his journey. He made an Indiegogo campaign and got the funding I think he made the trailer and he did an Indiegogo campaign. I've been following it and they got fully funded through Indiegogo and now they're doing, they're in production right now. So it has been cool seeing some of those, developments of people. And that was going to be one of the questions that I had was like, what do you feel is your next steps? And then Doug brought out the advice, which I loved. But you're right. That is always like the big question. One thing is to have ideas. Another thing is to like put them on paper. Okay, now the next step, like the big, okay, now how do you bring that, to life? And I know Matt has also done, at his film festivals, like master classes about like how do you get financing for like your scripts and to bring them to life. So that's definitely a very valid question. And I think Matt, who's always open to like chatting with filmmakers, at the end of the day, he always says his festivals are by filmmakers for filmmakers. So he has a lot of great data about that and how they go on to bring them to life.
Very good.
Yeah. You guys, Eric, did you have a question for me?
No, it was answered. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm just thinking about the next steps for producing too.
Right.
I hear you. Yeah. Well,
I was gonna say, Chloe, I'm sorry. I had the opportunity last year. The first draft of White Ceiling was selected a finalist for the Essence Film Festival.
Okay.
And so as a finalist, I got to have a live reading. So it was really wonderful to have it live to the public.
Hear it too, yeah.
Yeah, and Essence Fest is a big deal. They have millions of people that come to the festival because it's a music festival. And so it was wonderful to hear it live.
Oh, and so,
yeah, and a live audience, live actors reading it, and then and there was a Hollywood producer, but they do a reality show, and he told me that I have the quote, of course. I think you probably read it in the material somewhere, but he said you have a hit on your hands. So when someone tells you that, then you're like, well, what do I do?
Yeah.
So, but I did come home and I made some edits, and when I got the email from you,
Matt.
I had totally forgotten that I had even submitted it any more after that, because I was going to stop focusing and try to focus on reaching out to agency and maybe attach a talent or actor to it. So I was really happy to
that's amazing.
That. And also because everything else has kind of been finalist or selected, but to be actual winner.
No, it's awesome. And it's so tricky because we all know there isn't like a one road to getting the film produced. I mean, you could start with the financing, and once you have the financing, you can get a talent, or sometimes you have to start with the talent, and with the talent, you get financing. Sometimes you can get like a literary agent, or sometimes you attach a producer. Like there are so many different roads one can take. And I think that's always the tricky part, is knowing which road is best for you. And I guess if it was easy in one very simple road, everybody would,
be on it. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, totally. But I think,
the one road route would be great, but right now I'm going crazy on Twitter, the app, just trying to find like a literary agent to represent it.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like, through referrals and things like it's just connections, networking, Sometimes I do feel like a lot of time it's so hard through like cold reach outs, through agents. And sometimes you have to figure out like, it's research on IMDb Pro, like who do I know that knows this agent that can put in a word for me. So, the roads are there. They're not easy, but when you have that gut and you get that feedback, and if you persevere, I feel like you can make it.
Yeah, you just gotta keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, guys, for taking the time to share all your insights, your experience, your tips. This has been super exciting, and I really hope that your scripts and your ideas, if not this one, the next one, continue to flourish and come to fruition, and then hopefully I'll see it in another festival, but up on the screen. That'll be really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Chloe. Thank you.
Of course, it was such a pleasure meeting you guys. Thank you so much, and congratulations again for your work.
Thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you too.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. Take care.
So that the direction of the picture is in the script. Everything is in the script.